Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purijana Sahitam Sri Krishna.
It leaves you again in the desert, unquote. So the question is it ever possible for us by any means to subdue or to subjugate the energy of lust, to employ it in our service to Guru and Vaishnavas so we can evade that desert?
Saying, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Budho. Bhavam Budho, that means the ocean of nescience, the world, otherwise known as the world. Right? As Saraswati Thakur said, what is troubling us at present is what we call the world. And how people interpret that, but the world. So there's a common notion of what the world is and the experience of the world. And the world is not pivoting or moving according to our plans. Right? And as alluded to here, it's a world of mortality, right? That, he said, appears to be momentarily escaped through the indulgence and sensuality, which is short-lived, and then you're back to the situation again. So Srila Prabhupada, he says in the Bhagavad Gita that our original love for Krishna is being pervertedly manifested as a lust for matter. So then the question is how to get back to the original position. Right? So in Mahaprabhu, so he's saying, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkar, Krishna, I am your, Krishna Kinkar means your servant. I'm your eternal servitor. Yet, where do I find myself at present? Petitam Mam, I've fallen bhavam budho, into an ocean of nescience, forgetfulness. Bhayam datiya binibeshita chad ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti. Forgetful of our actual position. Sometimes Guru Maharaj would liken it to someone suffering from trying to think what the modern inoffensive term, mental illness, if that's acceptable. Right? So some mental disease, a diseased mind. And let's say it's someone actually from a very aristocratic position. It happens. And even in a wealthy, aristocratic family, they have a son who's lost his mind, right? Lost his senses. And where is he found? In the street, going through refuse, which he now thinks is very important, right? To collect particular types of refuse. He sees some value in that and takes it as his life's mission to do so. So if someone comes to him with and can bring about the remembrance of his actual origin, his actual family, loving, affectionate family members, and his substantial identity, they're doing him the greatest service. So I think that is our position here, right? And one of the Narada slokas to Vyas, he saying those words which do not describe the glories, what is that? Nayatra Chitrudam Harer Jasho, that do not glorify the Supreme Lord. He said they're like a tirtha bayasam, a place of pilgrimage for crows. So again, continuing, I think, what do crows focus on? In essence, refuse. Right? Various types of refuse. So he's saying, if we, those descriptions of not just stories, but you could say of possible identities, right? Literature is supposed to invoke in the reader some sense of self-identification. But he's saying, if it doesn't lead in the direction of Krishna, of the original personality of Godhead, and a relationship, the possibility of a relationship with Him, he said, then it's like, this Vayasam Tirtha, a place, he uses the word Tirtha, but he's saying like a crow Tirtha. Right? It's very strong language. So Mahaprabhu is saying, although I'm Krishna Kinkar, I'm your eternal servant, right? That's my actual position. Jive Swarupai Krishnera Nityadas. Right? I find myself at present surrounded inescapably by an ocean of nescience. Kaler Doshini De Rajan. Right? The flaws of the Kali Yuga, particularly, are oceanic in proportion. The thing is, we can't always do the camera fixing during the broadcast. Well, how long do you think it'll take? All right, try, but it would be better to do that before, not wait to find out that it's not working while we're broadcasting. Because we are trying to broadcast a message, the message of Godhead. So, Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam vishame bhuvam budho kripaya tavapada pankaja stita sadrishim vichintaya. And rather than expressing some how do you say, super aspiration, Prabhupada's exact words were, fix me up, but be merciful to me and fix me up as one of the atoms of dust at your holy lotus feet. Right. So Guru Maharaj extracts from that what he's saying is, in essence, that the value of the least connection with that plane, right? Establishing a contact point with reality. Right. As we hear in the Brahma Stuti, Jnane prayasamudapasana mateva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya bhartam stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan manobir ye prayaso jita jito piyasi taistrilokyam. Stane stita means whatever your position is, shrutikatam tanuvan manobir. Begin hearing this broadcast, right, about of reality. It's a reality broadcast, right? Reality is being broadcast into this plane. And in the Ramananda Sambad, Mahaprabhu, up to this point, he's asked Ramananda, how should one proceed? basically. In this world, if you want to make spiritual progress, how should you go? And Ramananda is giving different suggestions, something from Bhagavad Gita, from Veda, Purana, and each thing Mahaprabhu is rejecting, saying, Iho Bahya, that is external. And what he means by that, how can you say what's in the Bhagavad Gita is external? Like in the verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakangshati Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. Guru Maharaj is saying, what it's telling you is you're on the threshold, haven't yet entered. That's why he's saying external. And he's also implying there's not enough for this gradual progression to, march out of the mundane into the Vaikuntha world. Right? So each thing, suggestion that's being dismissed by Mahaprabhu ends when Ramananda quotes this verse. Because it says, whatever your position is, before he's talking about varnashram, and that could be divided into four, and then four varnas, four ashrams. He's saying, stane stita, whatever your position is, if you begin hearing, a reality broadcast, right, from a proper agent, where Shabda Brahma, spiritual sound, is descending through the agent into this plane. He's saying, if you express some regard for that, then, in Guru Maharaj's words, he said, that's your first contact with reality. And that's, Mahaprabhu says, Ramananda, Iho hoy, this I accept. But then he says, Age kahohar, which Guru Maharaj interprets as dive deep into reality. So here's your first contact point with reality. Now go further, go deeper. And in explaining the Shikshastakam, so Guru Maharaj says, so here he's saying an atomic presence in that plane that's my aspiration. Not to voyeuristically envision yourself as you've just heard about this. You're a new recruit, and you're voyeuristically envisioning yourself as a super servitor. Guru Maharaj is saying, when you're applying for a visa for a country, if in your interview, right, you say, you'd like to know all the state secrets, that will not be looked upon favorably. I think, why is he entering here? He's not even in yet, and he wants to know what the state secrets are. It's tantamount to that. Someone is newly recruited. They've had a brush with the Krishna consciousness movement, a brush with the Nirguna plane, which is of infinite value. But nonetheless, a brush, and they want to know the most confidential things, right? And voyeuristically envision themselves as a super servitor in that domain, right? Whereas Mahaprabhu himself and the Shikshastakam is saying an atomic presence. Uddhava, who's, Krishna himself saying, na tata priyatama atmayonir na shankara, na cha sankarshana na shri, naivatma chayata bhavan. How dear is Uddhava? He's saying, more dear than, Atmabhu, Brahma, Shiva, Sankarshan, which is his own brother, but he doesn't say Balaram, he says Sankarshan. And Sri, here meaning Lakshmi, because that would be another subject. And he's saying, and then, as if that wasn't enough, he says, in fact, he is more dear to me than I am to myself. What kind of a certificate is that? Guru Maharaj used that verse to establish the supremacy of the position of Uddhava, so that what comes from the mouth of Uddhava is rightly understood. So Krishna himself is certified Uddhava, Priya Uttama, most dear. And what does that Uddhava say? Right? Speaking of diving deep into reality, Asamaho charanarenu jashamahang sham Vrindavane kimapi gomalato sadinam yaddustajam swajanamarjapatam chahitva bejur mukunda parivim shrutibirvamrigyam. That he's saying, my aspiration is to, having witnessed the devotion of Srimati Radharani and Braja Gopis, Krishna sent him with a message. Right? And in delivering that message, he saw the most extraordinary magnitude and depth of devotion as expressed by the Braja Gopis, particularly Srimati Radharani. That was the occasion where she spun off in divine madness, the Brahma Gita, her song to the bee. So having witnessed this, so Uddhava, you would think he's in a position for this big ask. Does he say, so I want to be one of you? That's how I see. When I see this situation, I want to be among you. He's saying, no, that would be inappropriate. Too much. For Uddhava, who's certified by Krishna, he would consider that too much, an inappropriate expression. He even considers that asking for the dust from their lotus feet, which is what he would like, that is, they'll never give it. Right? Because the nature of genuine devotees is not to think of themselves as devotees. Right? The higher they go up, the higher we go in that hierarchy, the more pronounced is this feeling, right, of the absence of devotion, the lack of qualification. So lest we think, oh, that's told, the new people shall think like this, as we told initially, a devotee. They're not asserting humility. Saraswati Thakur said, it's non-aggressive, it's non-assertive. Right? So it's not low self-esteem, but it's as a consequence of such a high estimation of divinity, of the infinite. That causes the commensurate feelings of negativity. Jagai madhai hoite muise papishta, purishere kito hoy muise lagishta. Like Kaviraj Goswami saying, I'm more sinful than Jagai and Madhai, lower than the worm in the stool, and then simultaneously saying, but what's passing through me in the form of the Chaitanya Charitamritam, there's nothing higher than this. How can he hold these two positions? By the grace of the devotees, the grace of Madan Gopal, Madan Mohan, by being in connection with higher substance, then he becomes fit, right? Yogyata vichari kichu nahi pai. If tomara korunasar, if you examine me, you find nothing of value, nothing salvageable, nothing of value. But tomar karunasar, your mercy, by your mercy, I believe anything is possible. Right? Like sometimes Srila Gurudev, in answering something, he would say like, I may be imperfect in so many ways and but my Guru is perfect. When we were accompanying His Divine Grace in Switzerland, and this, like, how shall we say, like, Vedantic sannyasi had some sort of a center there and invited Gurudev there. So we went, and in his introduction of Srila Gurudev, he spent almost the entire time glorifying himself. I'm the only Swami in Switzerland. He's from India. But I'm the only Swami in Switzerland. I have a PhD in this. I've received. And he gave a list of his qualifications and awards, certificates, degrees. And then at the end of that, he said, and here this evening is, Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj. And then Gurudev said, I'm not so qualified. He said, I'm just a village boy. I didn't have a proper, education materially, and come from a small village in Bengal. And he was just doing the opposite, saying how unqualified he was. And then he said, but my Guru Maharaj, he is very qualified. And from my Guru Maharaj, I learned. And then he would quote a sloka. And some of them relatively simple, some of them long, and like with each one, as he kept expressing his own lack of qualifications, but how his Guru was very qualified. Every time he introduced another verse, and we saw that so-called Swami going, humbled. And one of those verses, I don't know if at the time, Kona Rajan Indriyavan, may be appropriate to this question. Indriyavan means for those who possess senses. Kona Rajan Indriyavan, Mukunda Charanambujam, Nobajait Sarvato Mrityur. Sarvato, in this world of inescapable death, saying, Upasya Amarotamai. And this says, again, perhaps Sukadev to Pariksit, Raja means king. For those who are in possession of their senses. Right? I mean, Indriyavan means who has senses. But that can also imply being in possession of your senses or right thinking in the right way. It says, Mukunda Charanambujam, they should take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda. And why the name Mukunda and not any other name? Because we're told Mukunda gives mukti, which minimally means freedom from, liberated from death. Right? That generic description of mukti is not pleasing to the Vaishnavas. Right? As, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya crossed it out and put, Bhakti Padaya, Bhakti, Padaya Sadaya Bhak. And Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma, you just were converted last week and now you're crossing out lines in the Bhagavatam. Mukti really means bhakti. All right, Swarupena Vivastiti. So put it back. But anyway, so it says upasya. No, that's not. Nobajait sarvato mrityur. Who in this world of inescapable mortality, right, no matter what you do, that is inescapable. We're in that, and no matter what your position is, right, we have a tendency to think that, as all people do, that our time is unique, or what we're experiencing is unique, or maybe unknown to others. But there was a plague, sometimes known as the Black Plague, maybe 25 million to 50 million people, there are various estimates, died. We now have some idea of the magnitude of numbers. 25 million to 50 million people. And this was in the 14th, 15th century, around that time. And one poet, Thomas Nash, he wrote a famous poem called Litany in the Time of Plague. And one of the lines that stands out, he says, "Beauty is but a flower, wrinkles will devour. Brightness falls from the air, queens have died young and fair." Then there's some other, but it ends with, "I am sick, I must die, Lord have mercy." Each line ends that way. I am sick, I must die, Lord have mercy on us. He's saying, so beauty is but a flower that wrinkles will devour. Who was said to be the most beautiful woman in modern times, Aishwarya Rai, she's now tested positive. Right? So beauty, Kunti Devi says, Janmai Aishwarya, Janmai Swarja Shrutabir, Edamanam Adak Pumam, Naivarhata Bidatumbai, Twama Kinchana Gocharam. Then Krishna, in this world, and it's very beautiful, this queen, this beautiful, noble queen, how much is within her prayers? How much is to be mined from there? She's saying, in this world, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Sri, these are the four assets to be acquired materially. High birth, Aishwarya means, in this context, wealth. Shruta means education. And Sri means beauty. Right? And sometimes someone has a high birth, a lot of wealth, good education, and they're very beautiful. Right? That's what and she's saying. But she said, for such people, you're not so easily approached because they have a relatively workable, livable, preferable circumstance. So they're not so interested. Jiva Goswami says, why human birth is more valuable than being born as a devata in Swargaloka is because there's so much enjoyment there, there's very little impetus for an extended life duration, enjoyment, there's very little impetus for spiritual culture. But she says, Twama Kinchana Gocham, but for those who are, and Prabhupada's translation, materially exhausted, right? Materially exhausted, they've realized that the material world, danger in every step, a never-ending series of humiliation, the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks the flesh is heir to. When someone is materially exhausted, they're no longer under the influence of humanism and humanistic sloganeering, seeing their prospect in the mortal world. Right? He's saying such a person may redirect themselves towards the immortal world. Right? As Guru Maharaj liked to quote the Upanishadic slogan, Shrinvantu Vishe Amritasya Putra. You're not children of this world. You're nectar children. It's so sweet and beautiful. He's saying, so listen to me. We're riveted to the nightmare of material existence. Through sound vibration, you can be pulled out of that. Right? Shrutikatam tanuvan manobir, hearing from the agent. Yes, that's your first real connection with reality, is tuning in to that divine broadcast of Shabda Brahma, Amnaya, that's revealed truth that's descending into this plane to the medium of divine sound. So, Tvama Kenchana Gocharam. What was I saying before that? Yes, but that's her verse. But, turning towards the immortal world. Right. And that means, I did say, redeploying the senses, right? Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. Right? Oh, I know what I was going to say. So hold that verse. That Guru Maharaj was told about a book that Srila Prabhupada published called Beyond Birth and Death. And it had some illustrations in it. And one of the illustrations had a skeleton sort of looking through a window or something like that. And so they're showing the book to Guru Maharaj and everything. And Guru Maharaj saying, yes, this world, you end up being a skeleton. And he said, but you don't have to be a skeleton. And he said, and what is that skeleton looking? He's saying, like, any other prospect for me? That's what I was thinking about. I was saying, so you don't have to end up being a skeleton, right? I mean, again, not to make light, people are suffering and dying, but this is the world of suffering and dying. Right? It was before, it is now, it will continue to be. Dukkalaya mashashvatam. Right? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. These are the inescapable sufferings of material existence. Right? So we need to recognize it as such. So when I said Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparate nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktirutama. So giving up all other substitutes, right? Gyan, karma, all different all substitutes for the real thing. Right? How and what will be the process? Hrishikena sevanam. That you can use your senses in the service of Krishna. It's not that being spiritual means sensory deprivation, right? As the renunciates are apt to think. But in Krishna consciousness, you can use, it's all about using the senses in the service of Krishna. So, in one of his songs, Narottam Thakur, he's mentioning the different ways, you could say, Prabhupada would use the word dovetail. How you can, the anger of Hanuman dovetailed into the recovery of Sita, right? Kam, Krodh, Lobha. So Kam was the question. That, we're told, is personified in the Braja Gopis. But we're told that the Gopis' Kam is prem, right? Because it's based upon the satisfaction of Krishna, right? But we will see within the plane of service, let's use the word passion, that someone can be passionate and their dedication to a particular service. So you could say that is a way. But really, as we told initially, Mahaprabhu in the Shikshastakam, so he's saying, an atom of dust, Uddhava, asamaho charanreno jisamahang brindavane kamapi gulmilato sadinam. The reason he's not asking for the dust from their holy feet is because he knows they won't give it. That's the nature of devotees. So he's devised another plan. Right? Whereas, and Brahma, interesting, it's very similar. Tadburi bhagyam ihajam kimapyatavyan yadgo kulepi something. Anyway, he's praying in a more general sense in that plane, because also after what he did, stole Krishna's calves and cowherd boys, an atomic presence in that plane. But Uddhava thinks, if I get an atomic presence in that plane as a blade of grass, a creeper, or some such thing, then when the Braja Gopis are moving in the plane of service, some of the dust from their lotus feet will fall upon me, thereby consecrating my existence. That's his strategy. See, and again, the superior devotion is revealed in expressing the greatest magnitude of appreciation for the least position. Whereas the posers or imitationists are revealed having the least connection, aspiring for the highest possible thing. Right. Whereas the great Uddhava himself saying, an atomic presence in that plane. Brahma, an atomic presence in that plane. Right. And the verse of Prabodhananda Saraswati Tasya Namostu Bhavo Yasya Kadapi Vasananjala Kelanota Danyati Danya Pavanena Kritartamani Yogindram Durgamagati Marusudanopi Tasya Namostu Brishabhanu Vubodhishepi. Yogendra, that means the kings of the yogis. Very difficult for them to have a glimpse of this plane. It is a verse where he is praising Srimati Radharani. He's saying, she's so great that Krishna, we're giving examples of devotees expressing the greatest appreciation for the least connection. In this verse, he's saying, Krishna, how great is she, the leader of the devotees, the supreme devotee, that if the breeze from her skirt comes upon Krishna, Danyati Danya Pavanena Kritartama. He thinks, I'm saved, I have the most, valuable, inconceivably valuable treasure. He's saying, if Krishna feels that way from the breeze, the wind, the breeze from that, he's saying, then Tasya Namosu Brishabhana Vibodhishepi, then I worship the direction in which she appeared. This is having a proper estimation of that plane. So, as given by Mahaprabhu, by Brahma, by Uddhava, and everyone in the line, they express the greatest magnitude of appreciation for the least connection of that plane. When Guru Maharaj says you should aspire to have a cottage in that plane, it's the same theme. He means the smallest presence, allowable. That's appropriate. But then, he's saying, in the next verse, Nayanam Galasudare Abhadanam Gadgara Rudhaya Pulakarbhajitam Tavanama, that's there. But, he's saying, but then if it's granted, right, coming in connection, he said, with the magic wand of the lotus feet of Krishna, then you're transformed. He said, then that servitor has unlimited serving aspirations. That's another kind of desire. So when we say the Braja Gopis' calm is prem, That's inconceivable to us in this plane, but their only reason for expressing these sort of sentiments is for the pleasure of Krishna. So, how to go from here to there, right? And what is the means? Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. Krishna's name is Hrishikesh. He's Govinda. He's the personification of aesthetic beauty and all of its aspects, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching. Right? And we're told that each one of the senses can be engaged in the service of Krishna, right? From our present position. Right? We're told Ambarish Maharaj, unlike most kings, they're busy with the affairs of the kingdom or of state, and they hire Brahmins to do this and Pandits to do that. But why is Ambarish, one of the reasons Ambarish Maharaj is so much glorified, it says, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo, Bachamsi Vaikunta Gunana Varnane, Koro Harer Mandira Marjanardishu, Shrutim Chakara, Sat Katodaye. His mind was always thinking of Krishna, of the lotus feet. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. So his mind was permanently fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunarna Vanane. The words that came out of his mouth were all Vaikunta Varna, Hari Katha, Krishna Katha. He used his legs to take him to the temple. He Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drsho. He was always viewing the beautiful deity form of the Lord, which he was also serving. He's cleaning the temple. So you say, usually the king, they have people do all these things. Ambarish Maharaj did the opposite. He did all the seva and had others run the kingdom. So that Krishna is Govinda is very good news for us. Right? That he's the ultimate sensual person. They're told, doors of perception cleanse, see everything as it is infinite. He's the infinite to be seen, heard, tasted, smelled, touched. He's reciprocating the ultimate aesthetic experience on what basis? Curiosity? No. Reciprocating love and affection. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja. Hrit saroja means the lotus, how do you say? The lotus of the heart. Right? Just like we see the lotus flowers grow and develop, and then they open. So we're told, when the lotus of the heart, through devotional culture, reaches out of opening, then Krishna likes to take his seat there. Right? Pravishta karna randrena swanam bhavam saro ruham dunoti shamalam Krishna shalayasya yatasharat. The Bhagavatam says, and what is the medium? Sound, divine sound, descending in this world through the ear into the region of the heart. Pravishta karna swanam bhavam dunoti shamalam Krishna shalayasya yatashra. Then everything is cleansed from there. Cheto darpanam marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Darpan means mirror. It means the Cheta Darpa, the mirror of consciousness. We know whatever you put before mind is like a mirror, reflected. You have no choice about it, in a sense. Right? But all of those, they're like dust particles. Right? And Guru Maharaj reminds us in the Bhagavatam and saying, when you see the dust floating in the air, you don't see the air. What you see are the particles. He's saying, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the impure elements that are floating in the thing that we cannot see, which is consciousness. So when a mirror is covered by a layer after layer after layer of dust, what happens? It loses its quality of pure reflection. Right? So at best, what you see is something vague, abstract, opaque, distorted. Right? So, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the mirror of the mind, of consciousness, of the heart, needs to be cleansed to see the self as it is. Bhava Maha Dabagni Nirvapanam. And again, like I said, Bhavabdi, this is, Bhava means material existence. Right. Shreya Kairava, and now back to that lotus. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vicharanam Vidyavaru Jivanam. It's so beautiful what is expressed there. I don't think we can express it because it's beyond our capacity. But we can say Shreya Kairava Chandrika is a type of lotus that opens in Vidyavadu Jiva. Like Vadu means the young bride, like that type of beauty and sweetness and natural charm, love, affection, and attraction is awakened. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. Remind of Guru Maharaj saying, and not a static ocean of joy. Like ocean of joy is not enough for him. It's not a static ocean of joy, which for most folks would be, Guru Maharaj saying, ecstatic, it's a dynamic, anandam buddhivardhanam, ever expanding. We're dealing with the infinite. Right? Paschime Yogamaishwaram, Krishna tells Arjuna, whatever you conceive of the infinite is finite to me. Let me know when you've had enough. Right. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvada. And saying at every step, pratipadam purna amrita, relishing this divine nectarine substance that's far beyond mortality and immortality. Immortality is a general thing. Right? What is the nature of that immortal world? Is it some abstract plane? Is it light? Like sometimes when people would come here, I would say, say they came at night, and say, so when you came to Chiang Mai at night, you were flying in. The pilot can say, outside your window, you see the light that you see, the city lights that you see. That's the city of Chiang Mai, or Chiang Mai. Right? And that's not untrue. Right? But that's not it. It's not like, well, now we can turn around and go back. No. Then when you land, as you begin to make your approach, then what was light and a more generic and abstract sense, which was not an unreal vision, but now it's starting to take shape and reveal specific form, qualities, and characteristics. And then when you land, you see there's a whole world here full of people and activities. And so we're told that it's like that. People, they get blinded by the light, as it were. Right? And it reminds me of Emily Dickinson saying, the truth shall dazzle gradually, lest all men be blind. You understand? She's saying, it's like the Bhagavatam saying, Parokshavado bedo yam balanam anushasanam. You have to gradually reveal the truth. Like the way you teach children, right? There's first grade, second grade, third grade, etc. Same thing within the devotional world. There's gradation, right? The truth shall dazzle gradually, lest all men be blind. Right? So, but penetrate, Jyotir Rupam, Jyotir Priti Tanum Hiranya Purusham, Pasyantitam Suraya, Guru Maharaj wrote. So, penetrating that light, it's in the Ishopana, Hiran Mayena Patrena. So, Guru Maharaj is saying, Hiranya Purusham, this golden person, can be taken to be one of the like Purusha avatars, or Vishnu. But Guru Maharaj is saying, no, Jyotir Priti Tanum Hiranya Purusham, that ultimate golden person to be seen beneath this effulgent is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Right? But Kunti, like Maya Javani Kachanam Agyad Hoksarjam Avyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata. This is Kunti. He's saying, Maya Javanika Kachanam. There's a Maya curtain that's concealing you. Otherwise, you are adhoksaja, right? Beyond the range of sense perception. But what did we say? If they're cleansed, how shall they be cleansed? By engaging them in service. Not by performing austerities or sensory deprivation, but by immersing the senses in varieties of service. They're cleansed and the infinite is revealed. So she says, Agyad Hoksajam Avyayam. So you're at Hoksaja, you reveal yourself, right? And what is the nature of such revelation? We're told that in the presence of devotion, Krishna cannot conceal himself. That's the way it shall be. Right? Not someone petitioning, but that on account of that lotus of the heart opening, Krishna is just irresistibly drawn by its fragrance, aroma, delicacy, everything. And it's as friends do, right? The better they, the more affection they have, the more they reveal to one another about themselves. A very sweet interaction between Krishna and devotees. So she's saying, Agyad Hoksadramamya, Nalakshase Mudha Drisha. Even Kunti calls people mudhas. I mean, you can say it means foolish, it means ass, like person, you know. It's not a compliment. Nalakshase Mudha Drisha. She's saying, so to the mudhas, Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanam asratam. Krishna is saying in the Gita also, Param bhavam ajanatam mama bhutam. They think either I've assumed this form, I'm the impersonal Brahman, and who, at best, they think, temporarily assumed this form. Right? As Dr. Radhakrishnan said, and his manmana bhava madbhakto purport, it is, or saradharman paritraja, it is not to the person Krishna to whom we are to surrender ourselves to utterly, but to the unborn, impersonal who's speaking through Krishna. That's a mudha. He may be the president of India, he may be the president of the world. He's a mudha for saying something like that. Right? So she's Nalakshase Mudha Drisha, Maya curtain hiding you from them. And what do you appear like? She said, Nato Natyadoro. Nato means an actor, dancer, actor. And dressed just the way someone who may be very well known to certain people, when they put on a certain dress, they play a certain role. Other people, no, it's them doing that, but other people are fooled. The mudhas are fooled by that sort of thing. But I don't want to end calling everybody mudhas. Yes, the divine sound entering the ear, touching the heart, that cleanses away. The doors of perception becomes cleansed, the infinite is revealed. So Rupa Goswami says, Atak Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved indriyam na bhaved grahyam indriye sevan mukhe hijavaroshayam evasportira. Always this point, saying the name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, they're all beyond the grasp of the mind and the senses. But when you say, well, wait, what did you just say? It comes in the next line. Sevan mukhe hijavaro. But those same senses, when they're surcharged with serving, as opposed to exploiting tendency, but a dedicating tendency, then shayam eva spuratira. Then there's illumination. So there is a way to channel everything in service. Hare Krishna. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaka Satara Sattva Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Deva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishva Varenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Charja Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishva Varenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Charja Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Seva Vrinda Ki Jai. Somaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. And Maharaj Dandavats from Suchitra Didi, Nadia Barandich, Dhananjay Prabhu, Russia, Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Lila Sundari Didi, Australia, Praneshwari Didi, USA, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, London, Tarun Prabhu, Moscow, Bhanavi Didi, Italy, Gurjit Arora, Sundar Gopal Prabhu, Brazil, Surinder Singh, Arjun Prabhu, Nityanandaram Prabhu, Colombia, Gokula Taruni Didi, Dandavad Dear Goswami Maharaj, Dandavad Dear devotees. It is happiness to see and to hear you. And,
She's in Abhazia.
In Abhazia. And yesterday she requested me to convey her Dandavats. Dhananjay Prabhu, Rome, Krishna Kanti Didi, Purushottam Prabhu, Salt Lake, and Alessandra da Costa. That's all for today.
Hare Krishna. Banja Kapil Triviyascha. Kripa Sindhu Bevata Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
And also Madhava Priya Didi and Leela Sundar Prabhu and Govinda Lent devotees.
Hare Krishna.